Welcome to the Backlash. I am your host, Rebecca Hargraves, joined as always by Mr. Dave Riley. How you doing?
Good. How are you? It's been
How am I? I'm at a nuclear level pissed off, and I have to stop talking about Thomas Massey. I have to stop talking about Thomas Massey.
Yeah.
We have other more important things.
Yeah. Like, how was your Halloween?
Oh,
Did you have
it
a
was
good
fun.
trick or treat?
My husband took my daughter, and I stayed in with my sick baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
sicko.
Because your family gave up my family some disgust. Dave calls me the other day to talk about something innocuous, and he's like, "Oh, we just have a little fever situation, some respiratory stuff." In the meantime, my daughter's like burning up, like laying on. I'm like,
okay.
I knew it was you.
It's just whooping cough.
Oh, God.
It'll be fine.
You can find us on X at Real Backlash, our website, thebacklash.net. Support us on subscribestar.com/thebacklash, patreon.com/thebacklash. Send your super chats that will be read live at the end of our show. Questions for Mr. Keith Woods to thebacklash.net/super chat or right here on my YouTube channel.
That was the wrong one. Did you see that? It's okay.
Go to our YouTube channel at Real Backlash. You can send super chats there. Follow us on Rumble, Backlash Podcast, IG, Real.Backlash, TikTok at Backlash Pod. If you didn't get all that, just go to our website, thebacklash.net/subscribe, and that is where you can find us. The many, many places you can find us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
We're about to cross like 1,000 on Spotify.
That's so impressive.
I'm happy with that.
I guess.
Great.
I'm amazed anybody listens on Spotify, but it makes me happy. Thank you to Atlas Bullion Premier, dealers of gold and silver, Idaho Tallow, that is skincare without endocrine disruptors, and Antelope Hill White Positive Publisher. We really appreciate it. Now, to our guest, Keith Woods is an Irish far-right nationalist, writer, podcaster, focusing on anti-immigration and racial nationalism. Thank you so much for joining us today, Keith.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's good to be here.
You've been doing great work. We've been following what's going on in Ireland with great attention, and it's been really uplifting to see. I loved your video that you did outside of the migrant hotel with the flames in the background. We were joking that you actually started that fire for the clicks. I assume you did not.
Yeah, maybe I should go on record and say I had nothing to do with that fire.
No, of course not. So let's get ready.
I was just there to document the events with the dancing Israelis.
We're seeing Europeans rebel in droves. It feels like every week we're covering some sort of new protest in Europe. But we want to talk about Ireland. What issues are specific to Ireland right now? And how does the Irish nationalist movement differentiate itself from other European movements?
Well, I mean, the City West is a case in point of we've had these very high-profile cases of violence from, in this case, an asylum seeker that was supposed to have been deported months ago, but also legal immigrants as well. But this is something that has especially become noticeable in the last 3-4 years. There's been a few high-profile cases. There was the one that kicked off the huge riots in Dublin a couple of years ago when an Algerian migrant stabbed children outside a school in Dublin. There was a high-profile case in County Sligo where a Muslim migrant beheaded 2 gay men in Sligo. Recently, this one in City West was a migrant that was actually ordered to be deported months ago. But we have this really ridiculous lax system where there's like self-deportation orders enforced for people who are supposed to deport themselves. And if they choose not to, they just hang around and rape people, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. He kidnapped a 10-year-old girl that was in state care. And I think took her to the premises of this hotel, which is actually the biggest hotel in Ireland. And it got totally taken over by the state in recent years to repurpose it specifically for asylum seekers, because the numbers have just exploded through the so-called IPAS system.
Do you know how many that hotel houses?
Sorry?
Do you know how many that hotel houses?
I don't know the exact capacity, but it's in the high thousands, and it's the biggest hotel in Ireland. And the numbers of asylum seekers coming in used to be like a few hundred to a couple of thousand a year. Since like post-COVID, it's over 10,000 a year now. It absolutely exploded. And there's never really an explanation given for that. You know, I hear this in the UK as well in political discourse. They say things like, we've more conflicts now. There's more war in the world, climate change. But I mean, there's fewer conflicts now than there was like 20, 30 years ago. And the countries these people are coming from are places like Algeria, Nigeria, Georgia is a big one, Albania, places where there aren't conflicts. So it's very clearly just being manipulated. The system is being exploited by illegal immigrants. And that's absolutely exploded in recent years. So I think that's one thing that's kind of specific to Ireland, is this problem specifically with illegal immigration and with the exploitation of the asylum system. But obviously, legal immigration has absolutely exploded here as well, especially post-COVID. We have been adding 3% a year to the population just with legal immigrants, which, like, you know, do the math for that for the US. Like, what's that like? That would be like 10 million a year for the US. So it's absolutely insane numbers. And yeah, it is creating a populist backlash, slow to organize politically, but it's just been such like revolutionary kind of chaotic change in such a few short years, what they've done to Ireland.
Do you see Ireland as uniquely vulnerable because of its population size?
Yeah, I mean, 5 million. I mean, it's so easy to flip the demographics of a country like that. Like, we've always seen, you know, the UK is so much further along in terms of, you know, they were getting the Windrush generation of immigrants. They were getting like Caribbean immigrants, like from the 1950s on. Ireland was still very homogeneous up to the 90s. But now 1 in 4 people here are foreign born. So that's a change that's happened really in like 2 decades, and really especially in the last 10, 15 years. And if you look at the projections in terms of the birth rate has fallen very quickly. At the beginning of the 2010s, Ireland actually kind of stood out in having an above replacement birth rate, despite being a very developed Western country. It was like 2.1, 2.2. Now for natives, I think it's below 1.5. So very quickly, it really is within a couple of generations, you can see how this weaponized mass migration can replace the population. And on current projections, I think, you know, 2040s, maybe 2050s, you could be looking at a majority-minority Ireland, which is quite staggering.
Unreal.
I know. We talk a lot on the show. We actually got into a dispute about this a few weeks ago because I said something about the white Irish. And he's like, you don't have to say white, they're just Irish. And
It's redundant.
I understand that. But we're having this controversy that I'm sure you're following in the United States. Not everything is about American politics. I hate to do this to our European guests.
Well, American identity is very different.
It's different.
What is
It's
an
different.
American?
Right.
That is like an open-ended question that
So
we are.
there's been this backlash to Nick
Backlash.
Fuentes. Yeah, I had to say it. To Nick Fuentes and what people are referring to as his big tent conservatism. So with reference to EMJ and the dumbass thing that he said about a Nigerian being Irish, what role do you believe that race and ethnicity play in defining Irish identity?
Well, I mean, the Irish are an ethnic group, and even this division between race and ethnicity. I mean, I've written a bit about this. I wrote an essay about this on how Irish nationalists traditionally conceived of identity, because obviously you have a lot of like revision around these questions now, especially for a country like Ireland that is like really, you know, its whole foundation as an independent state is rooted in nationalism. So you do get a lot of revision from people in power, basically, to say, no, you know, they just wanted, they were like, it was like this general kind of anti-colonial thing. It was a fight for freedom. It was a fight for like a republic where people would have equal rights like that. That's what they were fighting for rather than anything particular. And I kind of just went through, you know, the history of statements from the most important leaders in Irish nationalism and the independence struggle, where they defined it in these terms, that it's about the freedom for the Irish people, the Irish race, conceived as a distinct European people. But this idea, like even the division between race and ethnicity, this is again is something I've written about. Like this is only something that's really invented like post World War II. You know, if you read stuff from before World War II, you'll see in writings all the time they'll talk about like the Spanish race, the French race. So this is how it was used. And the reason it was separated is they said, okay, well you have race, fine, you have these big groups of people like white people, black people, but ethnic groups, that's like a cultural component. Okay, so the French, well, they're not just, you know, people of common descent. There's a unique French culture. And then gradually, of course, over decades, they kind of decouple the cultural element from the racial element and say, no, it's just the French culture. But yeah, historically, it was seen as the Irish race, the Irish ethnic group. And the nationalist struggle was about independence for that ethnic group. Within that, there was ideological difference, right? Because again, this is something you'll get from like modern kind of Sinn Féin types, is like Irish nationalism is inherently left-wing, it's inherently Republican, it's this universal anti-colonial thing. And again, this is something I've written about. It's like you had guys like John Mitchell was probably the most influential nationalist thinker in the 19th century in Ireland. I mean, he moved to the Confederacy, and his sons fought for the Confederacy, and he wrote essays in favor of chattel slavery, right? So it certainly wasn't some like universal anti-colonial thing. But yeah, you had people that were very left-wing economically as well, like James Connolly. But what united the whole thread of these people was there's a distinct Irish people, people of common descent with their own unique culture and traits and ways, and they should have self-determination and independence. And that's what united all of those strands. So I'd say, race, ethnicity, it's really inseparable. And I would even, I would reject the idea that those are even separate things.
I agree. Where do you draw the line between nationalism and universalist religious doctrine? Dave's over here cringing himself to death.
I'm not cringing myself. I'm busy looking up, I'm trying to find a picture of Eamon de Valera and Hitler. I don't know. I'm like big into the Irish nationalism. I mean,
I think it's good.
Because I'm like half Irish.
Yeah.
My last name is Riley. My family came from County Mayo. I've been talking about rekindling the ancient order of Hibernians to start smuggling money and arms to Ireland. It's like white Zionism. Can we please regain Irish independence? We fought for it and then lost it within 40 years of
White
gaining
Zionism. This is
independence.
how I know you're a Fed.
I am not a Fed.
Sorry, Keith, go ahead.
What was your question? I don't even remember what your question was.
Where do you draw the line between nationalism and universalist religious doctrine?
Well, I mean, what do you mean draw the line?
I mean, I think that they are at odds. I think it's a problem in Catholicism as we're seeing.
You're wrong.
As we're seeing with the emergence of Nick Fuentes and big tent conservatism in relation to Catholicism. And I think that we're all going to have the same problems in Western countries. So do you think that nationalism and Catholicism specifically are at odds?
Well, I think Nick was maybe misunderstood a little bit. I saw that clip that was going on. I don't actually think he was advocating birthright citizenship. He's never supported that. So I think it was just an unfortunately titled clip from a long stream. So I don't think he's suddenly abandoned white identity or something. But as far as the question of compatibility, I mean, I don't really like to get into the religious wars that happen on the right, which just seems to be an endless.
But it's so fun.
Shit flinging contest where I know, but no one ever seems to actually change their beliefs. It's just kind of a lot of fighting without anything really, and no one is really discussing it from philosophical priors. It's just kind of out of context quotes and stuff from both sides. So I don't know. It never seems very productive to me. But I mean, what I do know is historically, at least, Christians, Catholics were able to support strong nationalism for their own country. I mean, you look at something like the Reconquest in Spain, where they're just basically ethnically cleansing millions of Muslims out of Spain. So it hasn't been a hindrance historically. Obviously, since the 20th century, that has changed. And, part of it is you can say that the church has always been heavily influenced by whatever the dominant political trends were of the time. And that's certainly true now in terms of its embrace of liberalism. But obviously, I mean, I think it's undeniable that, out of Christianity, you get the idea of universal human dignity. You get the idea of universal human rights. And the way these things have been weaponized. I don't think those things are possible without Christianity. But then that goes for kind of our whole moral universe within the West, right? That goes for pre-World War II racist West as well. But certainly currently, I mean, the Catholic Church is a big driver of some of the worst of these policies in terms of their support for these pro-immigration NGOs in Europe and the US as well. But, if there are Christians and Catholics out there that support nationalism, that's clear. And like I said, historically, they've been able to marry that with their faith. So I would much rather encourage those people than, try and convert the entire right to one metaphysical worldview or something. It just doesn't seem to me very productive for a political movement.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, like, look at all the old Irish nationalists. I mean, Eamon de Valera, Michael Collins, all these people were Catholic, you know? And by the way, I would take a little bit of umbrage with your characterization of the Reconquest as ethnic cleansing. It was a holy crusade. It was a holy thing that they did. Okay.
Hey, on that we agree. I mean, I guess my question, I'm seeing that we do, as Christians, we extend basic human dignities to all people, the equality of the soul, but for some reason that translates into equality of opportunity, which translates into multiculturalism within our own countries. And I am not really sure that we're going to be able to undo this. Is this a problem that you're seeing in the Irish nationalist movement?
Less so here. I mean, the church really has a backseat here. I mean, I think they were so browbeat and so demoralized by the abuse scandals that came out in like the 90s and early 2000s that they really kind of stepped back from politics. And anytime they do try and interfere in politics, like even in stuff like the abortion referendum, it's very kind of limp-wristed. They don't want to offend anyone. And they're not really a political force in terms of the way, you know, like I was in Italy recently and they were telling me about like all of these NGOs with funded from the Catholic Church that are like, you know, bringing forward lawsuits for illegal immigrants' rights not to be deported and so on. They're not really politically active in that way either. So, I mean, yeah, it's significant in terms of what Dave said of like the history of Irish identity certainly has been tied to religion, Catholicism more than most national identities. And, you know, there's still a great number of Catholics within the nationalist movement. So, yeah, in terms of the church directly interfering in politics here, not so much.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine, you know, this is something really that, you know, and of course I'm going to get out here and I'm going to do my Dave thing, right? And bitch about Vatican II.
Oh my God. Okay, you have 30 seconds. Go.
Dignitatis Humanae and all of this stuff. But you can definitely see how the post-1960s Catholicism was like weaponized in South America for color revolutions with liberation theology. And it was deeply used to pacify any kind of European resistance to globalism, to the United Nations, to this kind of this idea of like fraternal human brotherhood has been promoted by the church. And like all of this stuff was condemned as heretical by Pope Pius IX. And it would have been like any Catholic prior to 1950 would have looked at you like you had three heads if you tried, you know, shilling any of this kind of stuff. Man, there's a lot of, we'll get to it. I've got a lot of different questions about like this idea of the colonization of Ireland, specifically by big tech, and how that kind of came into play with the abortion referendum. But before we get to that, I also wanted to point out, do you speak any Gaelic?
A little bit. I mean, not enough really to you know, be conversational on a daily basis. So I couldn't say I'm proud of how much Irish I speak.
No, it's okay. I mean, it happened, right? I mean, we have this whole diaspora thing going on back and forth with the Irish in America and adopting English and all this. But it is really interesting. When I was in seminary, one of my friends, Father O'Hart, who I believe is back in Ireland, I can hook you two up if you want. He's a great guy. But it was so interesting because he was teaching me about Gaelic and the language. And just to add another layer on top of this is, you know, you have the Irish people, the Irish religion, which was Catholicism, but then even the language. Mm-hmm. When you say hello in Gaelic, it's Jesus be with you, the translation. And then if another person enters the chat, it's Jesus and Mary be with you. Mm. And if a third person comes in, oh, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph be with you. And then it's like a giant litany of the saints. And that's how the language of Gaelic is constructed. It's like inseparable from the Christian Catholic religion,
right?
Which is one of the reasons why I think there's been a push to kind of remove Gaelic from the common speech and replace it with English. And to that extent, do you think the Irish have become white? I mean, it seems like mass attendance is down. I remember talking with Dave Cullen during COVID, and it was impossible to find an open church where he could go to confession. I remember working on it for like a week, and I couldn't find a church in Ireland that was open. I mean, there was 2, and it was like a 3 or 4 hour drive. But do you think that there is a kind of element of the Irish becoming white, that is to say, deracinated, decoupled from their ancient culture, decoupled from their language and their religion, and rootless in that way? Do you think that that has kind of happened?
I mean, that was something post-independence that Irish speaking never became as prominent as they expected it to be or wanted it to be. And people just generally found English a more useful language, and it only ever revived within pockets of Ireland. So that's not necessarily a modern change there, and that's something that historically happens as well. As you see this a lot. Nationalist movements oftentimes are tied to religion and language, because it's something that differentiates them from neighbors. Like in Poland as well, where I was recently, Catholicism is quite central to their nationalism, because of course they're up against the Soviet Union, who was trying to completely wipe out religion in that country. But then it's typical that as countries get independence, like their sense of self, their sense of being a distinct people kind of is decoupled from some of those things. But as far as the decline in religion, I mean, that is true. But I mean, I've kind of subscribed to the secularization thesis that I think when you get modern societies, this is kind of just what happens. Like when people have the choice of what to believe, you kind of see what we're seeing now, which is in somewhere like England, church attendance is absolutely rock bottom. And there's like an increase in belief in God among Gen Z. But you find it's very kind of like new age, kind of choose your own belief type thing, like mixed with different superstitions. But I mean, I don't know any developed country that has strong Christianity with strong church attendance. And I'm actually not really convinced that you can have a developed, modern, post-industrial society that has strong Christian beliefs. It just seems to me that everywhere that happens, religious beliefs collapse. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but typically they have been things that were very community-oriented, community-focused, and people grew up in small, tight-knit communities where they didn't have a sense of the millions of metaphysical beliefs and religions that are on offer. And it's always been something that's very much taken for granted. And it just seems to me a function of modernity now. And this kind of individualized view of things that we have, that people take a more critical view of these beliefs. And I'm not sure what can really be done to reverse that on a political scale. I mean, obviously culturally, Christians can spread their beliefs and so on, but I don't really see that going in the opposite direction, to be honest.
Americans forget that the Irish have this storied, rich, unique history, because as Americans, we're all some kind of European admixture.
The best admixture, of course, is Irish and Italian.
Worst.
Let's
That's the worst
be honest about that.
I don't remember who we had on. It was a European nationalist, but I was asking him about other European movements, and he was like, "Do you think that we all just like work together?" So I had some questions about it. I mean, in terms of European nationalist movements, is there a camaraderie? Are you guys working together? Is the Irish nationalist movement standing alone based on your unique cultural and ethnic history?
And yeah, there's camaraderie. I mean, like I'll be going to the Warsaw Independence March in it's only a couple of weeks away now, and that's kind of a great meeting point for nationalist groups around Europe. There's like over 100,000 people attend this, and you get nationalist groups from every country in Europe going there. And I've spoken at conferences. I attended a meeting in Italy recently alongside the Irish National Party. So there's definitely camaraderie, but I think sometimes maybe Americans look at it and think, well, you just need to like unify politically. I hear people say this to me sometimes. They're like, oh, you don't have time for this like Irish nationalism, Portuguese nationalism, German nationalism. You guys all need to unite. It's like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Like because you contest elections nationally, and the way you're going to appeal to people is always on the basis of national populism and national issues, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, well, there's camaraderie, and there's a sense that like there's a common struggle. There needs to be a common like continent-wide attempt at remigration, and there would have to be collaboration between nationalist groups in terms of rolling back all of this kind of like human rights infrastructure and some of the aspects of the EU that are set up to frustrate immigration policy. But I think like the unit where people organize what's going to be politically important, where support is going to be drawn from, is still the individual nations and the individual national identities that are still there and can still be tapped into. A European identity never really emerged the way some people thought it would. Even the founders of the European Union, it's like the EU has been around for what,
60 years.
Depends on when you think it. Yeah, I mean, depends when exactly you said it really started, or which treaty, when we really had something. But a few decades anyway, and it's still, if you poll people, every country in Europe, do they feel more European or more like Swedish or Danish or French? They say they're their own country, and that trend is not going in any different direction. So I'm very much a believer that the nation state, the national group, is still the group that we're going to organize on the basis of. And I do. I mean, I see it as a common struggle. I do. Like, I post about pan-European issues all the time, but I think sometimes people get a bit carried away and they're like, let's build like Imperium Europa and have some like pan-European movement or something. It just doesn't translate politically.
Francis Yockey coming from the grave, trying to like re-resurrect that whole like the fascist international or whatever. But to your point, you guys have, and I'm going to fuck up the pronunciation of this, I know it, but the DAL, right? Or the Doyle, or I don't know how the hell to say
Doyle,
it. Yeah. So that's your parliament. That's your like Congress, if you will. And that's the arena where you're going to need to litigate remigration. That's where you're going to need to enact laws to prevent the ethnic replacement of the Irish people. And so, getting the EU to then come in and tell Ireland what to do, like, that doesn't make sense, right? This idea of trying to have a pan-European movement and then use the EU to enact laws. I mean, that just seems tyrannical. It seems kind of counterintuitive to a nationalist, right? I mean, like, isn't the whole point is your country, your people, self-governing, independent, and then to a certain extent where you can collaborate or lend assistance between nations, sure, why not? But you need your own independence first. And to that end, my question is, can we get an overview of the political parties and like the political systems in Ireland? I know that traditionally speaking, the Irish nationalist movement and party was Sinn Féin, but they're gay now. They're like awful. They're pro-abortion, pro-tranny, pro-gay, pro-migration. I don't really understand how the hell that happened, but they've gone way off. Then what's the other one? You got Fine Gael, Fine Féil, and then a kind of new resurgence of smaller nationalist groups. You've got the Irish National Party, Solna Éireann, and maybe like Clan Éireann, is it Justin Barrett, I think, runs that. But I don't even know if that's a political party or more of like a street movement. Can you give us like a little bit of an overview of these different groups, where they stand, and what the political system is like?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be super exciting because it's like there's so little difference between any of these parties anyway. But Irish politics is weird because there wasn't a strong ideological divide historically. Like, in the UK, you have conservatives on the right and Labour on the left. And you have something like that in most European countries. You have like traditionally what would have been a Christian Democrat party on the right and then a more like social democratic party on the left. Ireland was different because the entire political system was based on a civil war divide, basically, which is you had after the War of Independence, a civil war, and the people that were for the Anglo-Irish Treaty became Fine Gael. The people that were more hardline Republican against it became Fianna Fáil. And it was these two gigantic parties that were like ideologically very fluid, and people struggle to kind of define them. Like, they would say maybe Fine Gael was like a little more center-right, kind of looked after small business owners. Fianna Fáil maybe more populist. But historically, it would have been conceived as two center-right or centrist parties. So there was never a big left-wing party. Again, this is something, a misunderstanding from people is to say like, oh, Sinn Féin like fought for independence and then they gave the country away to Muslims or whatever. It's like, well, Sinn Féin have never actually been in government, and actually the left have never been in government, except for as, small minority parties and coalitions. But it was large centrist, centre-right parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, that embraced, I guess, what you could call a kind of neoliberal economic doctrine in the 80s and 90s of, attract capital, attract multinational finance capital, make Ireland competitive on the world stage to attract investment. And just gradually in the 2000s, it just, it adapted to this kind of pan-EU hegemony of liberal rights, of LGBT stuff, of feminism, all that stuff. And it just came in with complete consensus in the regime media, among the established parties. And so that's kind of, there's like this dominant kind of progressive center of those two main parties. And then you have like a smattering of left-wing parties. The dominant one is Sinn Féin. And that's really the opposition. And unfortunately, another thing that's kind of unique about Ireland is, like you said, there's still a perception that Sinn Féin are nationalists. And that's actually not just outside Ireland. When they poll people on their attitudes to immigration, the people that most oppose immigration, actually, in terms of the main parties, are supporters of Sinn Féin. So even though it's very leftist, even though it's very internationalist and would be just as bad on immigration, a lot of its supporters are people that still perceive it as a nationalist Republican Party and assume that they would have a different immigration policy. Now, that's not the case for a lot of their supporters, and they've actually lost huge support in recent years. A few years ago, it looked like their leader, Mary Lou McDonald, was going to be our next Taoiseach Prime Minister. And in the last 4 or 5 years, they've lost a lot of support, mostly from what was traditionally like a kind of urban Dublin working class base. And those people almost entirely have abandoned them because of immigration. So yeah, now you have groups like the National Party, which is the one I would support, a smattering of other groups. Again, there's a lot of kind of factionalism. Every boomer seems to want to make his own organization. It's kind of a problem, is this factionalism. But yeah, that's kind of the base, I would say, from which nationalist groups like the National Party are drawing basis of their movement now, is this frustrated urban community that would have supported Sinn Féin and are now very frustrated and are seeing the effects of this very directly in terms of how it's transformed Dublin, a place where the inner city of Dublin is already minority Irish. So yeah, it's what's lacking here obviously is the big populist party. It's the big nationalist party with parliamentary representation. And part of that is what we discussed earlier, that this came so late and happened so fast. We almost haven't had a chance to properly react to this the way other countries have. And so the challenge right now is like trying to, okay, how do you build a serious electoral force when these other parties have like a century head start on you in terms of building at local levels and media support and so on?
Let's say the Irish, they meet critical mass in terms of nationalist worldview. Are you optimistic about the Irish ability to use intra-systemic means, like existing government infrastructure, to protect Ireland and institute remigration? In America, that just doesn't seem possible for us. It's just so bloated, and it's just we just can't operate within the current system of government. But it seems like in Ireland, you might actually have a chance to be able to do that.
I mean, I think anything is possible if you have the state, right? I mean, as much as we might see, EU laws or human rights laws and so on as problematic, I mean, ultimately those things can be basically ignored or torn up. If you have the state on your side, you can implement these policies. The only barrier is, the public opinion turning against you, and then people within the establishment that are opposed putting roadblocks in place. But like, these are all things that there's some level of public support on which you can overcome that. Like if you've 99% public support, you can pretty much establish a dictatorship regardless of the international human rights law or what it says in your constitution. So these are all things ultimately that it's still a question about building support. Before we start talking about like independent institutions or working inside the system or so on, it's still there to be contested in the arena of politics. I mean, you see in the UK, the UK is in huge trouble demographically, and I think you can have that conversation of like, is that even reversible at this point when you have second, third generation immigrants? It can certainly be slowed. Lots of people can be sent back, but in terms of people that have been there, their grandparents immigrated there, they're certainly very far along. But I mean, even in the UK, like I wouldn't have thought it was possible 5 years ago, even 5-10 years ago. I wouldn't have thought it was possible that in the kind of electoral system they have, which is first past the post, which is designed basically to have a two-party system, that within a few years you could have the Conservative Party. It's like I think it's the oldest political party in the world, effectively wiped out, and Labour not far behind. If you look at recent polling in the UK, if there was an election tomorrow, Nigel Farage's Reform would get like 75% of the seats. And then the Green Party would get like their men in 25. And basically these two centuries-old parties, Tories and Labour, would be wiped out. So, the establishment is always aware that they're never far off that kind of reaction. Now, in the UK, they have this figure of Farage that can step up and he's nationally recognized. And like the kind of the low information voter that doesn't really follow this stuff, just thinks there's too many immigrants and knows Farage is like the vaguely anti-immigrant guy. That's someone for them to support. That's easy. They just cast a ballot and that can like revolutionize the political system. It's much more difficult, of course, when you have to actually build up a party and when, right, constituency by constituency, and you don't have that nationally recognized figure and you have to do a true community work. But ultimately, like regardless of the, we can discuss like what's possible, how many people can you send back? How realistic is it? How much would nationalists be blocked out of government, even if they became the most popular party? Ultimately, any of those problems get easier and so many more possibilities open up. The more people are on our side, the more people are organized politically, the more people are willing to stand up and speak these things and support us. So, like, regardless of what the long-range political aim is, we still need to do work of changing public opinion and getting people on our side. I think that's still ultimately the most effective thing. And what the future will hold in terms of political outcomes, I mean, we none of us can know for sure, right?
Right. So how much resistance are you facing in terms of, let's say, the middle class Irish to the spread of, I don't want to say ethno-nationalism, let's just say nationalism?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of the big barrier here is, certainly you can see like the City West thing. I mean, that's an organic protest where within a few hours of it being announced, you had 2,000 people in this small kind of out of the way area of Dublin to protest this. And you see this again and again, the way the working class will rise up against this stuff. But yeah, I mean, ultimately the kingmakers in Western mass society is the middle class. And it can be very frustrated to deal with how it works in terms of these are people largely that decide their politics based on status and based on the sense of being a good person and having the educated opinions. And so it's quite a different it's quite a different proposition in terms of how you reach them. And that's where I think our movement does need to professionalize more. Like the last few years, there's lots of outrageous stuff online. There's lots of kind of engagement bait and rage bait, and sometimes kind of like trashy, like Jerry Springer type stuff seems to be all the rage. But yeah, if we want to, we want to reach new audience, we want to reach serious people, and we have to show that, we have serious proposals to turn our countries around. But it's at the end of the day, we can't all blame ourselves either. I mean, it's tremendously frustrating the degree to which the middle class in Europe will tolerate this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Even like in the UK in the last week, there's like 7 or 8 like mass stabbings. Someone posted them today. Like the guy got stabbed walking his dog. A black guy on a train would attack people with a machete and stab 10 people. Like this stuff is literally every day in the UK now. And unfortunately, there's just a very large percentage of our people that anytime this happens, they'll use it to signal against, their top concern is the racists and the ignorant bigots. And they're talking about how we all came out of Africa. I mean, it's just it's like leftist mind virus. There's just a portion of our people that they will never drop the white saviorism, unfortunately.
It's just incredible. I mean, years ago, I remember thinking we will hit some sort of threshold where we're crossing the Rubicon and everybody will be awakened to the multiculturalism problems, the immigration problems. But people have pushed so far past what I thought that threshold would be that it's astounding to me. Were you going to ask him something? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, no, I just don't get it. I don't get how the Irish are not figuring this out. And when you look historically too, it's like you got like the Molly Maguires. You can look at even the Irish in America. Specifically, I'm thinking of like the coal miners in Pennsylvania or the gold and silver miners in Wallace, Idaho. We kicked off a war that lasted 10 years because they tried to cut wages by 50 cents. And the Irish labor union in Wallace blew up a fucking mine.
Yeah.
And it seems like every time the Irish get their backs up against a wall, they get incredibly violent, incredibly quickly. And I must say, like, as an American, like, I know you might have to disavow all this, and I don't want to get you in trouble, but there is something that warms my heart when I see the Garda trucks burning. I like that. But what more is it going to take for the? I mean, it's such a small country. It's such a small population. You've already crossed this barrier. I mean, in my opinion, the barrier is somewhere around 13 to 14% of the population. Once it becomes 13 to 14% minority, and especially a unified minority, whether that be Muslim but something else where they've got a language, a culture, and a religion. Usually that's the death knell. That's it.
Right.
It's you'll blink and then it's half, and then you blink again and they're
right. And adding to that, not only what will it take, but is it enough for the Irish middle class to just want to oppose immigration, or do they need to go further to really institute meaningful change?
Let me add on to that too.
Poor Keith.
One big question: What's the economy like?
Right.
Clearly, you guys are not struggling economically, because I feel like if people were like in America right now, we're dealing with the SNAP food stamp thing getting cut. And so people are, the food lines are, even up here in a majority white area, the food lines are getting longer. Everybody that I know that has a traditional job, with a W-2, they're struggling as well.
Answer all that. Don't miss
so
a beat.
Answer
it wasn't
all
a
of that. What is the economy like? Yeah, go.
Okay, let me just. I just need a minute to recount all those questions. On the economy, I mean, it's a weird one discussing the economy because, like, on paper, Ireland is one of the highest GDP per capita in the world. So you can get misled into thinking everyone here is like as rich as the UAE. But this is where like the kind of this new globalist economics can get so misleading. Is like we have this massive GDP and a huge portion of it is just multinationals that operate here and have maybe majority non-Irish employees and export to the tune of billions, and that's added to our GDP, right? It's any economic activity. So successive governments for decades leaned in on this strategy of we'll have like low corporate tax, we'll appeal to like the Apples and the Intels and the Facebooks to set up shop here, and loads of these companies have their head offices in Dublin. And it did boost the economy in many ways, right? It does employ a lot of people. It does give us tax receipts, and it juices the GDP. But then there's all sorts of ways that like aren't accounted for within those statistics that people's lives have been made worse, right? So we have one of the highest tax burdens anywhere in the OECD on just like average middle income earners. People pay huge amounts of tax. There's a huge cost of living here. It's one of the most expensive countries in the world, especially for rent. There's a housing crisis. And a lot of these things, the degree to which we've opened the country up to global financial speculation plays a role in that, in terms of, there's a housing crisis, and obviously you have 100,000 immigrants coming every year, and maybe 10 or 20% of that being built in houses. And then you have, foreign hedge funds and speculators that just buy up entire estates of houses. So although like on paper, the country is quite wealthy, it's really concentrated in a kind of older upper middle class that has largely kind of shifted the economic burden onto younger people, kind of people my age and younger, that will be trying to get a start now, and they can't get on the housing ladder. Ireland has one of the highest rates at which people move out of their parents' house. I think the average is like 29, 30. And the only thing that's comparable is actually like the Balkans, where it's kind of part of the culture that people do that until they get married. But that's purely because of a financial strain and an inability to find housing. So there's a huge cost of living. There's a huge tax burden. There's a heavy regulatory burden on smaller businesses. like I said, people struggle to get on the housing ladder at any age. Because of the financial crash that happened in 2008-9, we had a huge property bubble, which again, in terms of this like neoliberal economic policy, we had governments that heavily deregulated the banks and the financial system. And this was a way to deliver quick GDP growth as well. The economy is struggling. Well, you can just juice to the property market. And for a while, it was like 25-30% of our economic output was this huge property bubble. The government, and again, it's all about getting the kind of raw economic numbers up, which does help the most wealthy. But then when it came crashing down, there was a huge bank bailout. And the Irish people basically bailed out 84% of the European banking debt, which required an outside bailout, surrender of sovereignty to the IMF, the ECB. And then another aspect of that is, well, okay, we had a property bubble, which was largely driven by speculative investment from financiers, driven by banks, reckless lending, a small few property developers, which largely were protected by the state, actually. But one consequence is that now you have to have very large cash deposits, 15-20%, in order to be able to access a mortgage. So all of this came at once. And I think it's a big reason for why the birth rate absolutely crashed, is, you need 20% of your mortgage. The economy was in terrible state. There was years of austerity, required a shift in a tax burden. It's very much a gerontocracy in terms of the old people. They don't have much to do. They follow politics a lot. They protest a lot. They were totally protected from the austerity. And it was totally shifted in terms of higher taxes, lower spend on middle income, young people, people that are working to raise a family. And so all of these things have really like compounded to just screw the average like middle class working professional. And again, this is just a kind of frustration of Western political systems. Is like we have an awful lot of boomers, we have an awful lot of old people, and they just don't encounter these problems. Like we can talk about how bad things are and how are people not waking up, but it's like there are boomers that live in nice leafy suburbs in Dublin, and they encounter no diversity, and the immigration to them means that means lower wages, means more workers in the cafes and the restaurants they frequent, and more carers, and bringing in these floods of people. I mean, it is ultimately it's juicing the property market. It's inflating the value of their assets. Maybe they own a couple of homes. So I mean, there is a class of people in the West, and this applies to most countries in the West. Like there's a class of boomers, homeowners. Worked when the country was nice and homogeneous, and they're largely avoiding the consequences of diversity and of the transformation of the economy in this way, and just passing all of the burden, all of the tax burden, all of the burden for any economic problems that's created, the burden of diversity and multiculturalism. They're just passing that on to the younger generations through propping up these parties. If you look at the electoral system, here, 70% old people voting for the same couple of parties, and young people are kind of checked out.
Yeah, I mean, and it is different because you guys use the euro, right?
Yeah,
right, and so there is a key difference for sure between like the Irish economy in America, where we are actively debasing our own currency, and I don't think the Irish have a money printer the way that we do, right? But it's weird to me. It bothers me that in America, for sure, there is something happening. There is like an awakening going on. People are starting to figure things out and speak up in a way that they haven't before. And we're a huge country of 325 million people. And it's like Ireland is the size of like Maine.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that social cohesion would be higher, that the conversation would be happening a lot quicker. But it seems like you guys are hitting like a brick wall. And maybe it has to do with the social media algorithms. When you go on X, I'm sure in Ireland, you're probably mostly inundated with American shit, right? Mm-hmm. American and European
stuff. I'm sure you're so sick of it. And then you come on, we ask you a bunch of questions about America. Sorry.
As opposed to Ireland.
I mean, things have changed quite a bit in recent years. I mean, before 2020, no one ever discussed immigration here at all. And it is quite a big topic of discussion here now, at least. I mean, obviously, regime media, you have the usual people making the usual arguments. but it is a conversation that's kind of been forced upon them. And when you see opinion polls, increasingly it's the top issue for people, or top 2 or 3. So there has been quite a change, but it has been very much like organic, ground up. And you do see more prominent voices. I mean, you guys, I'm sure you've seen like Michael McCarthy. He gets like billions of views on his videos talking about the downsides of diversity and so on. So like this stuff is out there, and you can kind of sense it bubbling up. Like I've said before, like it's in the WhatsApp chats, it's in the Facebook groups. Like people amongst themselves are talking about this. But again, it's just it's a frustrating thing with the middle class types, where they will agree with a lot of this, and when they're again in polite company, it's kind of back to the socially approved viewpoints. And when it comes time for the ballot box, it's typically some kind of more pressing economic concern that they think is more important, and back to one of the 2 or 3 establishment parties. So the conversation is there, and it is changing. It's actually something that's debated now, but it's going to take a larger dose of radicalism for people to see that it's existential. Like it's not just one topic, it's not just one case of government incompetence or mismanagement, among others. Like it's really the root problem.
Beyond immigration, which is obviously the largest problem in Ireland right now, and we've talked about the economic situation, what do you think is the other biggest threat to Irish sovereignty today?
Well, I talked a bit about the economic system. I mean, I think it's absurd personally that you have any country where you allow foreigners to own land.
Oh, yeah.
I've always thought that's absurd. I mean, I think in London now, like the majority group in ownership of property in London is Indians, like above even the English.
Jeez.
The Qatari royal family owns more London property than the British royals. Like all of this is just absurd to me. And like Ireland is really, it's lost its economic sovereignty. I mean, Dave mentioned like it's a good thing that we can't debase our currency. Personally, I would have liked some debasing. I mean, the case of what happened in Ireland is like the opposite. It's like we were forced to take on banking debt belonging to private speculators, like firms like Goldman Sachs and private pension funds and so on. Our government guaranteed their credit to Irish banks and basically forced the taxpayer to pay all that. And so we were under like crushing austerity for years. And if we had monetary independence in a case like that, you could have done what Iceland did when they had a financial crisis, which is you cheapen your currency and export your way out of the crisis and kind of liquidate some of the banking debt. We didn't have any monetary options like that because ECB policy is basically set by the Germans and the French to a lesser degree.
Right.
And so we had to run economic policies that are basically centered on keeping inflation down for the Germans. That's their top economic concern. And Europe has had a lost decade, really, in terms of after the 08-09 financial crash. You had 10 years of austerity, of little to no growth, of countries like Spain, Italy with more than 50% youth unemployment. And I think all of these national economies have really had their hands tied behind their back in terms of the kind of neoliberal economic policy of not really having the independence to print money or to have a national export plan or industrialization plan. Europe has totally fallen behind in innovation. I mean, the US has just totally outpaced it since 2008-09. And a lot of it is that Europe is doubling down on these neoliberal economic policies. And it's just created stagnation. Europe is dying in many ways, but part of it is economic, and the youth unemployment, and that feeds down into lower birth rates. So I think it's a huge problem, the lack of monetary sovereignty, on top of what mass immigration is doing to our country as well.
Yeah,
and that goes for many countries in Europe.
Yeah. That's incredible.
We do have a few questions for you. If you guys want to get any questions in for Keith, the backlash.net/super chat, or my YouTube channel, or at Real Backlash YouTube channel.
Or Rumble Rants. Or our Bitcoin one.
We have made it so easy for you to send money. Please throw some money at us.
Send us your money.
Send us your money.
And
questions for Keith. I guarantee that somebody has asked if you've ever ridden a horse.
I was just about to get to that. From Book Track Grooves, he sent $10 on Rumble. Keith, have you ever ridden a horse?
I bet he has.
There's multiple parts to this question, so we won't do what we just did. I'll break this one up. We'll make it really nice and simple. Have you ever ridden a horse?
I haven't ridden a horse. So.
What? Why does
he
always ask this?
Sorry.
I don't know, but it is a good question. It's unique.
I think that he thinks that it's a reflection on a man's character.
Odd. Okay, well, that's cool.
Guess I failed the test.
How do people support you? What are your thoughts on the Peaky Blinders?
Poor Keith.
You can support me. Go to keithwoods.pub and you'll get I publish all my writings there. Any shows I go on. As I'm saying that, I realize I forgot to post a show on there, so I guess I'll do that afterwards. But if you follow me there, you can become a paid subscriber as well.
I'm so sorry.
Get some bonus content.
Richard,
I don't scare anyone away with that.
Richard,
I should take that off the front page.
Yeah, we've got to update
but
this.
Yeah, keithwoods.pub. I'm also involved in something exciting right now. We're launching a news aggregator, which will cover all of Europe. It'll cover the US. It'll cover the world. But there's really nowhere to get, I think, like one centralized place for nationalist, populist themed news. I think probably most people like me just use X or Telegram for news, but increasingly a lot of that is AI. There's a lot of slop on there. Sometimes you encounter a lot of fake news. So we're building an aggregator. I think it's going to be something that's really needed and appreciated. It's just Europa.com. And if you visit it, you'll see there's a US section, a Europe section, a world section. It's still a little bit under construction, so there'll be more to come in that regard. But I think this is a project I'm very excited about, actually, because like I said, you've got Drudge Report is kind of center left now. There's a couple of kind of MAGA themed aggregators, but nothing really in our circles. And with all of the chaos and turmoil, I think there's going to be in the next few years and exciting political events. I think it's very important that we have one kind of central node that you can get updates on whatever is unfolding, and it'll be reliable news updates.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we've been noticing it. Elon has been experimenting with the algorithm, and I think they changed it over to Grok a week or two ago, and it's just, it's not been good. There's definitely like a disconnect with the algorithm where.
Well, I'm noticing. I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm noticing people that I did follow that were okay accounts. And now they just post stuff that's obviously written by ChatGPT. There's a couple of channels I would see news updates from them, and they'd be pretty good news updates. If something happened, they'd do a big tweet about it and have a few paragraphs. And now I read it, and it's just like it's all these EM dashes, and it's like all of this weird alliteration. It's just like you clearly pasted this from ChatGPT. That feels like half my feed recently. Like if you follow news at all, it's just a slop everywhere now.
Right.
Hey, what's your issue with M dashes? I love M dashes. I use them all the time, and I don't copy pasta from ChatGPT. But
unless it's for the title of our shows.
Well, actually, yeah, never mind. The titles and descriptions for I think every single one of our shows has been created by AI because I've outsourced my creativity. But yeah, there is definitely like something going on with these algorithms. Like, I mean, on the one hand, and we'll talk about this on Wednesday, this American Jewish Committee thing that has happened. So it's like we had the World Series, and normally this is like the first year where we haven't been taken over by sports slop. At least my feed hasn't. I didn't even realize that the World Series was going on until it was over. But, we had a massive push with this American Jewish Committee conference, Mark Levin going absolutely batshit insane. And it seemed like the entire feed was just hitting that.
That's what your feed is like? Mine is filled with AI content, but it's of children dying from cancer.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah. And it's very convincing AI content.
And this is something that I talked with, was it Voorhees? Eric Voorhees, was that his name? Man, it's been a long time. Talking about going back to the EMJ days. He was a Google whistleblower, and I remember him talking about how, one day in the future, they're going to put us all in our own personalized bubble where you're just going to be presented with news specifically for you.
That's exactly what is happening right now. Yeah.
What's going on.
And the AI is becoming very advanced in and convincing. I've actually fallen for a few.
Yeah. So you don't.
And it's like I feel like it's like a two-pronged assault. It's like these two things happen at the same time. Where it's like on the one hand, like 90% of the content is AI now, and it got a bit more convincing. But then on the other hand, it's like 90% of people on the internet now are like Indians and subcontinentals, and like people that like really fall for AI. So it's like these two things have kind of just met at the same time to the point, like, you know, because I got banned on YouTube. Like now I see, like, if I log into YouTube, it doesn't bring up my subscriptions or user history and so on. So you kind of see what it's like to be on like normal YouTube. And it's just, yeah, it's like, it's AI slop, but it's like not AI slop that would be interesting or convincing to like the average, like, 100 IQ Westerner. It's like, you know, it's like it's literally content made for like Indians. It's
and
like,
then,
oh, this
of
guy,
course, the convergence
they thought
of
he was
those
poor,
things.
but he was secretly a millionaire. It's like all this kind of weird, like
the convergence of those things, which is Indians using AI.
I cannot wait for. There's supposed to be a new feature rolling out to Twitter that will show you what nation a Twitter account is based out of.
Oh man, they'll just use VPN.
I can't. No, they can't use VPNs.
Oh really?
No, because it's like the account.
Oh, it's 90% Indian, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and all of these the classical, laser eyes, classical Statue of David accounts. You know, it's
gonna be like it's gonna be Night of the Long Knives for the like Greek statue accounts. They're all gonna have to go offline.
I can't wait. I'm rubbing. No. Okay. Anyway, Book Track Grooves send another $10. Keith, how are the churches? Do you have matchmakers in Ireland? Keep your hat sharp.
Matchmakers, don't know why. So there's like a matchmaking festival in there's a famous one in Ireland in a village called Lisdoonvarna, and I'm sorry to report it was like one of the first villages that somehow got flooded with a migrant center a few years ago. So nowhere is spared, unfortunately. I think that's like rural County Clare. So and what was the last part of the question?
Keep your hat sharp.
About hats?
Yeah, it's a Peaky Blinders reference. You know, they put their razor blades in their their Irish hats.
Oh, that was a previous question asking me my thoughts on Peaky Blinders. I only watched a few episodes. I never really got into it.
Okay. So I guess I watched that in like, was it 2018 or it must have been 2018. I remember I was living alone in Kansas, and I don't like porn. I don't like looking at that shit. And so when the Peaky Blinders, because there is a lot of that in Peaky Blinders. And so I guess when I was living alone, whenever that would happen, I'd like get up and I'd like make food and I'd kind of like leave the room. And so then, you know, when I got married, I was like, hey, honey, we got to watch this great show. It's the Peaky Blinders. You'll love it. And then it was like, holy crap, there's like a lot of porn in this. And I never realized it. So you've got to be careful with the Peaky Blinders about that. But I believe it was season 4 when they formed this alliance between the gang and Oswald Mosley. And it's kind of cool. You know, it's kind of neat to see.
I don't think I ever got that deep into that show.
Oswald Mosley, you know, at a house party giving a speech about how England lives and marches on in like somebody's backyard under a tent. But they also make Mosley look like a total degenerate.
Yeah,
piece of
I'm
shit.
sure there was no propaganda.
Yeah, it was propaganda. Speaking of propagandistic television shows, have you had a chance to watch Mussolini, Son of the Century?
No, I've heard mixed things about that. I think I'm gonna try and check that out. Someone's gonna have to send me a link to it or something. When I was over in Italy, I was actually asking them about that, like, because it's originally an Italian show, right?
Yes.
And they're actually pretty positive on it. So I thought, okay, well, if these like Italian nationalists think it's okay, I guess I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, you know, it was fairly historically accurate. You know, they do focus heavily on Mussolini's relationship with that Jewish woman who was kind of like cited as the Jewish mother of Italian fascism. But that's true. That happened. You know, he did have a lot of mistresses. He wasn't the most upstanding, saintly person. But
how dare you?
But the show is good, and it's funny too. You know, there's all these, it's very clearly got a bunch of liberal propaganda in it. There's this moment towards the end of the series where Mussolini like breaks the fourth wall. And the whole thing, he breaks the fourth wall. It's kind of like his a diary, where he turns to the camera and bitches about the situation. But there is one part where he turns to the camera and he goes, "Make Italy great again." And
oh no!
Like very obvious, very obviously
this sounds
like
terrible
liberal propaganda. But it's great. I liked it. I liked the show. I thought it was half decent. While we're on it,
I actually really liked Italy. If you want somewhere that's really really good to visit, Florence, I really recommend. It's like very you won't really notice, apart from like the train station as well. There's not really noticeable diversity, but it's incredible. Like every street is like the amount of history in that city is insane. So especially maybe people that are watching this that are into European classical history and so on. Florence is an amazing place to visit.
Also, Siena.
One thing surprised me about Italy,
too.
none of the trains I got ran on time.
I was going to ask, did the trains, do they still run on time or what?
My guess is no.
I guess not.
None of them ran on time.
Oh,
I was very disappointed about that.
While we're on Italy for a moment, because I am Irish and Italian, I am curious, what is going on with Casa Pound? Are they still cooking? What's the deal?
Yeah, they're still around. I haven't encountered them much. With the group I was over at their conference, it's called Kasagi, which is kind of, I think it's a similar group. I guess they'd be friendly with those guys, but unfortunately, I guess I'm not the most educated person on Casa Pound.
No, it's okay. We're planning a little family pilgrimage to Europe for next year, into Geneva and France, and I really want to take 2 detours to Ireland and to Italy, and so I'm going to have to do some networking because I want to get an update. Like, I have some of my old friends were involved with Casa Pound, and
Dave's going to infiltrate all your groups.
I'm not going to infiltrate them.
He's got his tentacles and everything.
I do. I am in all of the Irish nationalist, not all of them, but I'm in some of the Irish nationalist group chats, and I'm keeping tabs. I want to make sure
I'm
that
in
my
one.
people
That
are
is
doing
true.
good.
I am also.
Are we in the same one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. Mechanized Doom sent $20. In my opinion, the tech companies turning Ireland into a tax haven accelerated its decline. Big agree. Do you think Ireland has been colonized again by Apple and Google?
I actually think that's been overstated a little bit. I actually wrote an article. It's not released yet because I submitted it to somewhere else to publish rather than just my Substack. But it's why Ireland is so left-wing in terms of the dynamics, mostly of the people that dominate the media here, and how concentrated the domination is of this small state class of kind of upper middle class, kind of South Dubliners, very kind of cosmopolitan class of people that always saw themselves as European rather than Irish. But that's one of the things I actually covered in the article is this case. Michael Jones made this case before John Waters has kind of made this case that the tech companies kind of top down socially engineered Ireland. I just don't see it that way. I just don't see. I mean, of course, they are quite liberal in their views, but in terms of direct intervention, I mean, obviously there's the usual tech censorship, right? I was immediately banned off of TikTok, and I'm banned off a few other platforms, banned from YouTube. But in terms of them directly interfering with policy and saying hey, you got to bring in abortion, you got to bring in gay marriage, you got to open the borders, it really hasn't happened that much. I mean, they give whatever their ESG funding is, and some of it makes its way to left-wing organizations. But I really think it's an internal problem in terms of the psyche of the Irish upper middle class and the people that traditionally dominated the media, financial sector, politics here. And I think it's much more a native problem in that regard than the kind of simple story of Googleification. Google and Facebook came here and made everyone gay. I think by the time by the time they were doing anything socially, I think we were already well into that process.
Yeah. How is John Waters doing these days?
Seems to be all right. He's currently making his rounds on the podcast from what I've seen.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna have to have a chat with him at some point.
Yeah, we'll have to bring him on. He wrote that book. Was it Give Us Back the Old Roads? That was Give
Us Back the Bad Roads. Yeah, great book title.
Yeah, it is amazing how time has flied since COVID. I feel like we all kind of stepped into a time warp or something like that. Reinhardt sent $25. Thank you for the big super chat, buddy. It breaks my heart to see the Emerald Isle in the state that it's in. I hope the Irish find the courage to bring enough force to bear to salvage their nation before it's too late. It happens fast. Don't wait to become America. True. Do you have a comment on that?
Big agree.
Big agree.
We love Reinhardt. Thank you.
We love Reinhardt.
Truth nuke.
Book Track Groove sent $10. Keith, Irish Bitcoin or gold bills could help it. How are the pubs? Are they better or worse? What games do you like to play outside?
I think that's kind of sad. Irish gold bills. I don't know. I don't think we're gonna like bring down the financial system like trading gold coins or something. That seems like nonsense to me. What was your part? What games do I play outside?
What games do you like to play outside? Stickball?
What I don't know what stickball
What the fuck is stickball?
You don't have
I used to play
stickball.
Gaelic football. I used to play hurling. I used to play soccer.
Cricket?
Those were the big three.
Oh,
I don't
cricket's
play
more
any now,
English.
unfortunately.
Rugby?
There's no cricket culture
I
in
can see you
Ireland.
playing rugby.
Oh, I got one over
played
here.
rugby. I was far too fragile for rugby. I mean, look at me. I was even worse. I think I
guys
probably
are
would have broken in
serious.
half.
But
with
aren't you
the
tall?
first-
You're like
the first
6 foot.
tackle, so.
Aren't you like 6'2"? How tall are you?
No, I'm like 6. I'm 6'4".
6'4".
Whoa.
Yeah, tall
Well
guy.
done.
Very tall guy.
Dave is 5'4", so
I am not. My
But
mother.
height doesn't help so much for rugby. You ever see the rugby players?
Yeah,
they're
the
wide.
individual
Yeah, they're
rugby
stout.
players
Yeah, yeah.
like
They're very wide.
5'9" and like this thick. You know, I'm like kind of the opposite build of a rugby player.
I am not 5'4". I am
No.
5'9", maybe.
he's 4'11".
My mother is 4'11".
She's a little gal.
She's
Yep.
like a midget.
Yep. I have one on YouTube too.
Hold on, I got one.
Oh, okay.
The Winged Hussar sent $20. Keith, have you ever trained an Irish stick fighting? I have a blackthorn shillelagh that I train with here in case I ever get myself in trouble. Didn't they ban shillelaghs?
Keith is like, what? What do you guys think about the Irish?
We start talking about sticks.
I know. Anybody have any pot of gold references you want to throw at Keith while we're at
Me
it?
potatoes,
Yeah.
my potatoes and me gold.
Yeah, it's nice. It's quite quaint. It's like we're on this little island riding horses, trading gold coins and stick fighting. It's like I really think it's like another like universe. Like
It's
no,
in
everyone
your
here
burrows,
is on Instagram and like watching porn. It's really not.
It's
not that
Hobbiton.
much to it. No, I haven't trained in stick fighting.
See, I wouldn't mind. I've thought about getting one of those canes that has like a built-in 22 because we're American and we're all about guns over here. So,
Okay.
but yeah, shillelaghs. Go ahead and
I saw there was a lot of discourse about like self-defense in the UK after that train attack because it is kind of insane. I can understand why Americans like make fun of Europeans for not owning guns because there is something absurd about like that guy was on the train with a machete and there was just like a train full of people at both ends with like no way to defend themselves.
Right. Do you remember that terrorist attack?
I think they were saying today the guy that actually like held him off or disarmed him somewhat did it with a bottle of Jack Daniels. Apparently.
Oh, good grief.
So, I saw these debates were going on. They were saying, people were telling girls, they were telling women, like, you can't carry mace or pepper spray either in Ireland or the UK. And they were saying to do, I don't know if you guys know what deep heat is. It's like the spray for muscle soreness.
It just has
and, like, heats
menthol
up
in it
your
or something.
muscles. So there's been all this discourse on like British Twitter about like how are we going to fashion some kind of like self-defense item and like looking at muscle sprays and this kind of thing. It's kind of a
I wish
sad
we could
state
get
of
them
affairs.
arms.
just go.
Do you remember that terrorist attack in England? I don't know, 5 years ago or something, where the guy defended himself with a narwhal tusk?
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was just peak
A what?
absurdity.
A narwhal
A narwhal tusk. He had taken off of the wall of a pub, and then he had to deal with
You guys are going to have to get creative. This is one of the things that was in that Mussolini Son of the Century miniseries. They banned, guns and they banned carrying clubs. So they started using dried fish, big ass dried fish. And then they would beat people with fish
Wow.
to death
Yeah.
in Italy
They're spiky.
at the time.
That actually might work.
Maybe you guys should get some like tuna,
some
big dried tuna. You can walk around.
I'm not advocating anything. I don't want any
No.
I don't want any like dried fish. I don't want any like crazy dried fish related terror incidents in Ireland. I mean, you know,
They're going to get
He has
you.
a blowfish like a mace that he's.
They're going to be going around with, shit. What's that? What's the dumb, what's the fish called that they put on pizza that sucks?
Sardines.
Sardines.
Anchovies. Yeah.
Anchovies. There we go. Officer Russell sent $10. I don't mean...
If someone used it as a weapon, it'd be a little out of place.
Officer Russell sent $10 on Entropy. Don't forget, you can super chat on Entropy. I don't meet monthly quotas by shooting grapes out of these huge nostrils, so I make something out of nothing by going after the people I swore to protect. I'm afraid of actual criminals, but like to go off on power trips, so I got my budget agent wife who lets me freak a leak as Uncle Fester on her.
What?
What the fuck?
I don't understand any of this.
I don't know.
You people are weird, but thank you for the
Russell,
donation.
Thank you. Are you Irish? Is this common in Ireland?
I didn't really follow any of that.
Neither did I.
Me
It's
neither.
okay.
Bizarre. Robert the Pivotal sent $10. Keith, it appears you guys over in Ireland have your own police negligence, even agent provocateurs. If white nationalists hypothetically have ready-made plans for the next crisis, which type of crisis can accelerationists leverage to rush hotels? By the way, Robert, it's spelled ACCEL, not EXCEL. I'm a grammar Nazi, okay?
Yeah, I don't really understand that question, and it sounds kind of Fed posty. I'm not advocating anyone to rush hotels.
No, don't do
Fair
that.
enough.
That's something that happens naturally. You don't need to plan that.
On my YouTube, we have Pete Lecca, I think. Here to support you guys. And Keith, I just like to recommend Keith's book, which was a great analysis of current political, sociological, and demographic changes. Thank you so much. You want to shout out your book?
Thank you. Sure, it's Nationalism, the Politics of Identity. If you search, you can search that, or you can just search my name on Amazon. I have, for those that are interested in the Irish discussion as well, I released a collection of historical Irish nationalist writings. Partly to correct this thing I've been talking about, where like there is this kind of new revisionist view that they were all like, you know, globalist, like third worldists or something. So I just actually, you know, made a compilation of historical writings. I was surprised that it had never really been done before. So there's an anthology of those as well. Irish Nationalism, Essential Writings. And yeah, Nationalism, the Politics of Identity is my collection of writings advocating for nationalism.
Yeah, there it is. What is it? Irish Nationalism, Essential Writings, Volume 1.
Indeed.
Highly recommended. Well, I think that
I'm good on
we
my
are all
end as
caught up
well.
on all of our super chats. One last question, I guess, from me that's probably going to get you in trouble. I apologize.
Stop trying to get Keith in trouble.
Oh, no. Hold on. We've got one from Bone Smasher who sent $20. The irony of last week's show is that Dave was dressed up as exactly what Cameron actually is. You said you don't know anything about his personal life, but he's been on for a year. He's running a one-man show. Hard to fight the flag when you've got no one at home saluting it. Glowy.
If Cameron were a Fed, I would never stop laughing. Also, we're not getting any Fed money.
We're not getting the Fed money, but I think that there is a faction in the CIA that likes what we do, and God bless them.
Okay, but we don't have good Feds working for us.
The white hats are in control. Trust the plan,
fuck's
Rebecca.
sake.
William Lee. Okay. Yeah, William Lee sent $10. I'm angry just because my own Asian women want a white man instead of me.
Ruh-roh.
Womp, womp, womp.
Anyway, Keith, where can people find you? You have an excellent Twitter. You have a Substack. Why don't you shout out all the links where folks can find you and learn more about Irish nationalism?
Yeah, like I said, keithwoods.pub. You'll get all my writings there. What you're looking at there is bio.link/keithwoods. That has all my links.
Excellent.
And like I said, I think people will find it very useful if you go to europa.com and bookmark it. It's going to be our own nationalist news aggregator. And see if you find it useful. I think people will really like the service there. But yeah, bio.link/keithwoods. You'll find everything there. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Keith. It was such a pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
And we aren't done yet. We got another super chat.
That was a cozy stream.
That was cozy. I like Keith. He's very comfortable. Is that weird to say?
It's a little gay.
Little gay. I apologize.
Are you sure you're not Mr. Bone Smasher?
Bone Smasher. No, I am not Bone Smasher. Reinhardt sent $10. Wait, don't go yet. Join Patriot Front.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
They don't have Patriot Front in Ireland, so it's okay.
Right.
Keith didn't need to hear that.
We love you, Reinhardt.
We love you. Been praying for you, bud. What else do we got? Nothing over here. We should talk a little bit about our sponsors. Our sponsors. One of them being Atlas Bullion. Man, I was trying to, I go to the sauna every day, try to sweat out the toxins. It's very good for your insulin levels as well if you stay in longer than 30 minutes.
Duh.
So I usually put on a non-political podcast when I'm in the sauna. And
I thought you were going to say a pink thong.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And I like to listen to Magic Orange Coin podcast, Magic Internet Money podcast. And I was listening to this one from, was it What Bitcoin Did? And the entire podcast is about how fascism will win and how like America is going to become a fascist country. And I was like, excuse me, what fucking planet did I wake up on today? I was beside myself, but it is very clear that the economic situation in this country, we are running on E. The reverse repo markets are getting extremely fucked up. We are moving from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing, which is going to make inflation go bananas. We are going to hit the banana zone. And in a situation like that, you want to be holding hard assets. Very good to hold gold and silver, which you can buy from our friends at atlasbullion.com/backlash. They are the internet's premier dealer of gold and silver for people like us. They've got silver subscriptions as low as $55 a month, gold subscriptions as low as $200 a month. Of course, you do get chopped. You get chopped up in the premiums when you buy fractional gold and fractional silver. So it is a good idea to buy large chunks, if you can afford it. 20 silver coins at a time is good, like buy a tube of those silver rounds or perhaps an ounce of gold if you can afford it, which is at, what is the gold price today? Let's see, it is $4,000. Silver at $48. They have been defending those levels very strongly. They've also got plans, IRA plans, Little Legends, Legacy Builders. You can get your kids stacking some gold and silver. Teach them about the value of hard money. You can do that at atlasbullion.com/backlash. We also have to give a major big shout out to our friends at Antelope Hill Publishing, who is fighting to keep history alive amidst a regime of anti-white censorship. They are publishing a new generation of dissident, radical, and right-wing researchers, philosophers, polemicists, and writers. They have an eclectic catalog that includes veteran right-wing authors and academics like Kerry Bolton, Dr. Ricardo Duchesne, and Paul Kersey, as well as new figures like Lord Miles Routledge of Afghanistan, Josh Neal, and Christian Secor, in addition to a long list of original translations or modern reprints of otherwise inaccessible historical works from eras such as fascist Italy, National Socialist Krautland, that's Germany.
Thanks, bud.
And even medieval Europe. Their original works include groundbreaking investigations into the causes and funding behind transgenderism and the opioid crisis, books on Christian nationalism and American folktales. Additionally, Antelope Hill contributes to the regeneration of our culture and rebirth of our family values through their top-quality fiction, including books like Let Them Look West and Worlds Separated, and a collection of beautifully illustrated and wholesome children's books. Whatever your interest is, you're bound to find books that you like at Antelope Hill, all professionally published and with cover art that will grace your bookshelves. Help us and help our people by checking out companies that share our values and work to preserve the birthright of our history. Visit Antelope Hill Publishing today. And by the way, I have a very special announcement. I will be attending the Antelope Hill Christmas party this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
cool.
I'll be flying out for that. I think it's in mid-December.
Okay.
That should be fun.
Cool.
I think we're also going to have maybe our next meetup will be a big Christmas party here in North Idaho. How does that sound? Do you guys want to come to a Christmas party? If you're in the area, please send us an email at info@thebacklash.net. We will be doing some rigorous vetting going forward. We'll take you out for a cup of coffee, get to know you, do a background check, get your social security number, date of birth, and run that through our computer system and, pass it up to Cameron so he can have his friends and CIA.
Oh, man, I missed a super chat. I'm really sorry.
Oh, what was the super chat?
Alberto. This was for Keith. The super chats disappear on my YouTube channel. I apologize. Can you post episode on Spotify quicker to listen back, please? Question for Keith. Sorry. Any
Yeah,
comment
we'll
on?
work on it. I'll get that up. I mean, I will get this episode up today since
I'm
we're
so
doing it
sorry,
much
Alberto. I
earlier.
can, if you like, I can send that to him on Twitter DMs, and then I can email his response to you. I'm really sorry.
We can talk about it on Wednesday's show. Speaking of shows, I did release a special Dark Dave edition of the Backlash last night, Dave After Dark. But I think it was good.
Keeps getting gayer and
I couldn't
gayer.
sleep on Saturday night. I was laying in bed. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was pissed because of this whole clock situation. You know,
It wasn't about Thomas Massey.
no, it wasn't about Thomas. It's daylight savings time. See, we're going to have to go through another cycle of this.
Isn't it ridiculous?
We've got to go through another cycle. We've got to spring forward. But I swear to God, next year, can it be the last spring forward? We'll
I know.
spring
It's-
forward
no.
and then just stay there forever. I really don't like how dark it gets dark so early now. It's like 4 o'clock and it's like midnight outside.
Yeah, it's a problem.
But I did do a Dark Dave episode of The Backlash last night. You can find that on our YouTube, on our Rumble, and on our X. Let me know if I should be posting those to our Spotify and Apple podcasts as well, because I'm not posting it there. Maybe I should be. I don't know. But it is doing very well. So Thank you all for watching my solo rants. I do appreciate that. We'll be doing some more of those. And we will also be doing a little bit more shilling for Idaho Tallow Company, the world's best soap providers, critically acclaimed everywhere from Nigeria to Beirut. Idaho Tallow soap, made with cow fat and lye.
Wow, you are killing it with this promo.
If you are sick of chemicals in your soap that you can't pronounce,
We're lucky she is so permissive.
if you don't like Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble, if you hate giving your money to Jewish soap making companies, you can go to North Idaho Tallow Company at idahotallow.com. They are preparing for a big Black Friday, Christmas gifts for your family. They will come pre-wrapped, pre-packaged. All you got to do is buy it, and then you can give it out to all your family and friends, and they will be clean and smelling very nice. Very nice. They've got soaps, balms, and lip balm that have nutrients your body craves, that your body needs. So you can go to idahotallow.com. They've also got their Fireside Forest Tallow Soap on pre-sale. They've got the You Pick Soap Bundle, the Soap of the Month Club, so you can always smell nice and smell nice.
Just read it next time, dude.
I'm just going to read the ad next time. No more improv.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to have an excellent show on Wednesday. A big show on Wednesday. Following on Monday, we have finally confirmed Miss Emily Yukis. So that's going to be a great episode.
The Will Stansel
I can't stop.
It's the Will Stansel
I'm just
show.
in the grocery store. It do be like that, Mr. Stansel.
Bro, it's amazing.
So good. Her last episode dropped a day or two ago. It was fantastic. So check her out.
And we are going to force her to sing Pistachios and Peanuts.
I'm not going to.
Pistachios.
Emily is a dear friend of mine. I'm not going to humiliate her unless it benefits the show, in which case.
Maybe if we get enough super chats, we'll get her to sing Pistachios.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Keith Woods. We will see you on Wednesday at Real Backlash on X. Follow us there. The Real Backlash. realbacklash.net/
thebacklash.net/
Where can you find all of our links?
Subscribe? Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's all of our links.
thebacklash.net/subscribe.
Thank you, guys. Check us out there. We will see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.